Lucasfilm created some of the greatest memories in my lifetime. In fact, the stormtroopers are so iconic, I took my picture with them when I went to Disney. However, seeing Vader himself back in action and being the real badass I always hoped he'd be might actually be the greatest thing this movie did. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Rogue One, a Star Wars anthology movie. And before we even get started, let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? I don't particularly care about the politics behind the screen. What I care about is the story that got shown. And the story that got shown was a great ensemble cast with some pretty powerful message that could have been told in just about any version of a war. Now, I do want to also say that there was something else to think about. The original cast wasn't exactly, when you take all three of the original trilogy together, just white guys. Princess Leia was as much a hero of the rebellion as anyone, and Mon Moth, who plays a big role in this movie, has also been in it since Return of the Jedi. So for all those people who are complaining about feminism, I'd like to point out that sci-fi has always been ahead of the curve when it came to that sort of thing. One of the taglines I've heard for this movie is putting the wars back in Star Wars, and very much they did so. Like I said, this could have been taking place in France during the World War II, this could have been taking place in New York during the Revolutionary War here in the States, and it would have made just as much sense. It was a ragtag group of rebels trying to fight an all-powerful empire, and that all-powerful empire was about to get even more powerful. I'm not going to say there were a lot of surprises in there, because let's be honest, going in, even before the spoilers, we all knew at least part of what this story was and where it was going. But that didn't really matter so much, because we had some really great set pieces, some great action, more than decent plot, and you know what, some characters that they really made us feel and think about. I will say, it's kind of funny thinking of this as a prequel, because this is the prequel I would have hoped that we would have gotten all those years ago. Right down to some of the nits I pick about those prequels that were much better in this one. But let's just talk overall. What is Rogue One? Rogue One is the first anthology movie, and it's a big step. It's seeing, can we make a story take place in this universe without it mattering whether or not there's a Skywalker or a Jedi involved? Now, as far as I can tell, that answer is yes. I think that more than enough people are going to go see this. This is going to be a blockbuster, and we are well on our way to showing that Star Wars can grow beyond the original scope of the story. I don't think I ever thought for a second this was going to be a bad movie, but my rating system is a little eclectic. I'll link it down below. And all in all, I have to say that I always knew this was going to be in the upper echelon, and part of me had hoped that it would be that mythical perfect movie. Was it? Not really. It was a great movie, though. Solid gold by my rating. However, there were a few things that kept it from being perfect. Let's go into this, though, so we can talk about it. And I warn you, there are some well-kept secrets leading into this. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Ba-da-na-na. And point blank, the trailers lied. Well, I know there were reshoots and all, but this story is not exactly the story we were forecast from the trailers. Very few of the iconic scenes from the trailer even made it into the film. And I guess this doesn't really require a spoiler, but stormtroopers are still pretty shit. I mean, really, when you think about the fact that these are supposed to be elite troopers, the way they get mowed down is pretty hideous. I will say, because this wasn't an ongoing episode, the fact that they were able to at least kill people that had names did make this feel a little more like a war, and I will honestly say that this is probably the grittiest Star Wars movie I've seen yet. This very much was a deadly Star Wars film. And you know who showed off the best for that? Not many characters in movies as are iconic as Vader himself. And you know what? Way back when I heard he hunted down and killed the other Jedi, I kind of shaked in my boots a little bit. Okay, I was a kid. But the imagery, the idea of exactly how badass Vader was has always been built up. And this is the first time we really see it on screen. The movie pretty much ends where the most famous one begins, A New Hope. The blockade runner is running, it's got the plans for the Death Star, and it's being chased by an Imperial Star Destroyer with Vader at the helm. And I understand why they're running. I understand why they're afraid of Lord Vader. Of all the iconic imagery of Lucasfilm, though, I think one of the most iconic things isn't just that Death Star, but that crawl at the beginning. And you know what? We didn't have it this time. Surprise! One of the fun things you can do when you have a series like Star Wars is just assume that everyone's seen all the other movies. And when they do, they already know who everyone is, what's going on. You don't need to set the picture. And they do that excellently here. There is new information put through, we see a bunch of new planets, but at the end of the day, it's just Star Wars. It does bank on some nostalgia, from blue milk to a moisture farming family to losing your family early on. There were a lot of themes from A New Hope still hit here, but at the same time this felt different. In fact, one of the most different things are the heroes and villains have a very stark contrast in Star Wars normally, but in this, maybe not so much. So let's talk about some of those surprises. The entire cast was excellent on both sides of the field, Empire and Rebel. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's hard to say good guy and bad guy. Obviously, the antagonist and protagonist role was taken up. But let's talk about who the Rebel Alliance has for heroes this time along. Han Solo always got to be the bad boy of Star Wars. But these guys, Han's got nothing on most of them. Between Jyn Erso being very much a criminal, and the male lead being a pretty much out-and-out assassin, we have a lot of bad dudes. In fact, we have people that I'm not even sure I would want to root for, until you remember the fact that the bad guys are even worse. You know who the only one who actually came off as a just straight-and-out good person was? Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut, who was obviously some sort of monastic monk who believed in the Force. And I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of debate about whether he had it or not. After watching the movie, my personal opinion on that is that he had Force talent, but was untrained. While he wasn't a Jedi, he was obviously Force sensitive. And, of course, you kind of have to be, because you're blind in fighting. Most of his choreography was great. When he pulled out that big old bowcaster and was using that as a weapon to shoot down the Imperials, it was even better. But all in all, when you look at the rest of the cast of, I'm going to call them protagonists, honestly, the fact that they were going after the Death Star is the only thing that made them heroes. Other than that, they were just rebels. On the Imperial side, on the other hand, not all of the bad guys were really that bad of people when you think about it. Some of them were really just doing their job. And hasn't that always been one of the arguments that's been made about Star Wars? Blow up the Death Star, how many people were just doing their jobs? That's not saying there aren't bad people, because yeah, there are some bad guys. But at the end of the day, this is very much a war, and in a war, both sides think they're the good guys. However, now's where I get into some of those nits that I said I was going to pick. And you know what? Out and out Rogue One was awesome, in my eyes. But I didn't see it alone. I saw it with my family. And you know what? My niece and nephew weren't that impressed. The story was kinda slow. Then again, so's A New Hope when you really look at it. And at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot of blockbuster, huge aha moments. Because again, we know this story. For the most part, this was a really great character piece, though. And maybe not exactly something that's going to get someone interested in Star Wars, because you have to already know Star Wars to really enjoy it. And going forward, if that's the way they're doing anthologies, that's going to be a problem. We need to introduce new fans to Star Wars, not just cater to the old ones. All the Easter eggs were great, and I just have to, point blank, when Red Leader showed up on screen and I knew that was the same Red Leader as shows up in A New Hope, I thought that was awesome. The seeing Yavin 4 yet again, oh my god, the Maasai temples were awesome. Getting to see and hear the words Kyber Crystal on the big screen, as someone who's a huge fan of the expanded universe, that was also great. Seeing the X-Wings fighting in tight formations and running on trenches brought up nostalgia. And it's not like all of the scenes are just ones that are taken right out, because like I said, unlike Force Awakens, this was its own movie. Whoever came up with the idea of having the final closing battle be a battle on a beach was brilliant. We had sand, we had jungle, we had water. Oh yeah, and on top of all that, you know what else we had? We had AT-AT walkers. These heavily armored, I don't know how the rebels are supposed to fight them, monstrosities that are terrifying. And you know what? It worked out great. Before we go any further, though, I'm going to throw up a second spoiler warning. Because remember when I said there were things that had stayed hidden? Well, this is something I'm glad I didn't know going in, because it shocked the hell out of me. Through movie magic, we have Vader back and James Earl Jones revoicing him, and we have Tarkin back. But you know who I didn't know was going to be in the movie until the absolute end? Well, we have Bill Organa sending someone to get Obi-Wan Kenobi. And who is that? Well, good old Princess Leia, de-aged using that same tech that they used in movies like Ant-Man. So all in all, I wonder, did you know that was coming? If so, leave me down in the comments what you think about it being a spoiler. Or, if you didn't know it was coming, what you thought when you actually saw Carrie Fisher de-aged on screen. I was just blown away. And of course, we need to talk about that ending. Oh man, what a bittersweet ending. And by bittersweet, I of course mean everybody dies, and I do mean everyone. So much for Matt Pat's film theory about the Rogue One crew going on to becoming the Knights of Ren. It was a good theory, but it was just a film theory. In the end, Rogue One was completely self-contained. There was no need for it to continue on at all. There was no hidden secret for, oh, who's really the secret Skywalker? Nope. It was just a really good, awesome movie. 2 thumbs up, solid gold. Now, if you liked this review, do think about subscribing and giving me my own thumbs up, or maybe you have your own thing you want to leave in the comment section. Either way, I'm trying to build a community to look at the heart of the stories we tell. Before we go, I did pitch my own idea not too long ago for a Star Wars anthology movie. I'll leave the link here. I hope you all have a nice night, and thank you for walking with me through the heart of Star Wars Rogue One.